Of the three budgets delivered by the Rudd government, this is the most political, the least believable and the most damaging to Australia's long-term future. Yeah. It's a typical old-fashioned tax and spend Labor budget that also features all the debt and deficit that can be expected from Labor, only covered up by clever accounting and a great big new tax on mining. What it has actually delivered, though, as opposed to talk about, is a $57 billion deficit this year, the biggest ever. What the government is actually doing now, as opposed to promising in 3 years' time, is borrowing $700 million every week till then. Brazenly, the government wants credit for a surplus that doesn't yet exist and that it's unlikely ever to achieve. The surplus that it says will happen in 3 years' time is based on increased taxes and on the growth that those increased taxes will almost certainly strangle. That's right. Is roughly the amount required to fix the pink bats program that's been linked to 4 deaths, the amount required to pay for the extra detention measures needed because the government has lost control of our borders, or the blowout in the Computers in Schools program. It's roughly half the blowout in the school hall program. Does anybody seriously believe, based on this record, that a re-elected Rudd government could avoid another surplus-shattering disaster sometime in the next 3 years? No. Now, it took years to accumulate $96 billion of debt, but this Labor government expects to do the same in less than half the time. It took a change of government to get Labor's debt paid off last time, and once again, the quickest way to get rid of this debt will be to get rid of this government. Yeah. Now, and amidst all the self-congratulation about how historic this budget is, you almost expected the Prime Minister to declare that fixing the deficit is the greatest moral challenge of our time. In his 2007 budget reply, the then opposition leader, now the Prime Minister, said, "We must remain committed to keeping taxes low." But he has just increased the cigarette tax and added a new mining tax to the 125 separate taxes that Australia already has. He said then that a Labor government would withdraw an existing regulation for every new one imposed on business. In office, he has introduced 9,997 new or amended regulations and withdrawn just 52. Hit hard by the cost of mortgage repayments, food prices, petrol and childcare. His spend-a-thon has contributed to 6 interest rate rises in the last 8 months. This is not a normal tax on super profits. It's a super tax on normal profits. Every company extracting non-renewable resources will have to pay an additional 40% tax, as well as normal tax, once its rate of return on capital exceeds the long-term bond rate, or about 6%. The new tax applies to the extraction of phosphate, sand and stone.